hot take, Oregon State has a shot to compete for the Pac-12 championship this year. What do you think?
Okay. If somebody told me that their defense will finish number 1 in the Pac-12 again like they did last year, yeah, I do. Unfortunately, I don't think they will. Why? Because they lost 2 QBs in Wright and Austin to the NFL. And man, I'm big on corners, dude. If you got 2 lockdown corners like those 2 kids were last year in the Pac-12, where there's a lot of offense, Christian, we always say it's a track meet over there. Most games going to be tough. They do bring in DJ Ungile. I can never say his last name, so I'm just going to call him DJ. I apologize. I'm a simple fuck here from Nebraska. Borderline trailer trash. My thing is, though, they were 105th, if I'm not mistaken, Christian, in passing yards last year. Pretty fucking sad. There's only 133 Division I teams, so they're going to be better there. I don't care. DJ was a huge, I believe he was, God, if I'm not mistaken, he was a 5-star when he was at Clemson. Damn close. Okay. Did not pan out at Clemson. Looked like dog shit last year, like complete dog shit. Was Trevor Lawrence's backup, if I'm not mistaken. Played well that year, but he had really good receivers that year, so that makes a difference too. But here we are. Oregon State, I don't think they do. Daniel's going to be happy about this. Again, love you, Daniel, but Washington's going to be really, really fucking good. This is the year of the Pac-12, man. I hate on the Pac-12 a lot. This year they're going to be good. Pac-12, you got USC, you got Washington. Not in this order for me either. Oregon, right? I have Oregon probably coming out of that. I haven't come out with my preseason rankings yet. Not yet. But, man, Oregon State is going to have to play out their fucking mind, I think, Christian. This isn't really even a hot take for me to win this. Like, this would be, to play for a Pac-12 championship, they're going to have to be elite. And that defense would have to be elite. DJ is going to have to play like a fucking 5-star recruit, what everybody thought he was. I mean, he's going to have to come out there. We're going to have to hear some fucking receivers that we've never heard of in order for them to compete for this, because Washington is, if I'm not mistaken, Washington, USC, and Oregon are damn near all 3 of them are almost like top 12, I think, in every goddamn ranking I've seen. Like, they're going to be good. And I don't base my rankings just off of somebody else's or some website or ESPN or any of that stuff. It's just they're going to have to be elite. And, dude, everybody forgets about Utah. You know what I mean? I love Utah a lot. And I know, Christian, there's a team over there in the Pac-12 that we've caught a lot of heat for, have we not? And I'm going to say the name. And I mean, God forbid we said that maybe they'd win 4 or 5 games this year. And all these people said they're winning 10, 11, maybe even running the table playing in the playoff for a national title would be Colorado. So I know you're scared of Colorado, Christian, if you're an Oregon State fan. I'll kick it over to you, buddy. I want to hear your thoughts. This is a hot take. Christian, bring it to me real, buddy.
Man, you talked about it, man. The miniature guitar, you just talked about there, the quarterback there. I can never fucking say that name. So that's what you get for being from Georgia, I guess. Look, I think if he steps up and plays like the 5-star quarterback he was in high school, right, coming out of high school, he's got a great shot at it. Here, you said something very interesting last year. You said something very interesting just now, Chris. He looked god-awful. I don't think he actually was that he was super bad at Clemson, man. I don't think it was that. I just don't think he was elite on the same level like they're used to. You know what I mean? Like, he was
and Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence. You got Taj Boyd. You've got all of those guys, right? I mean, he just wasn't that elite level quarterback that you're used to seeing that Clemson has, right? He was probably an above average ACC quarterback, but again, on a team like Clemson that you're expecting to run roughshod over the rest of the league, it's just not good enough, right? So I think the big thing here, Chris, let's take a look at their schedule. This might shock you a little bit, right? Their schedule's not terrible from an outside perspective here. They start the year off playing at San Jose State. Then they play against UC Davis, San Diego State, at Washington State, and then that's when they start getting into some more, obviously tougher opponents here. I think they've got a great shot at going 4-0 to start the year off.
I was just going to interject there, and I would agree with you now that you pulled up the schedule. But here's my problem. What about those last 2 games? And I think that just decides so much there. And does Oregon State get hot, Christian, And if you think DJ is a better quarterback than I do, obviously, and I'll leave it there. We'll debate on that another day. Maybe if we talk about Clemson at some point. But even Utah, at Utah, which is at home. I mean, these Pac-12 teams sometimes, man, especially these middle of the road, above average Pac-12 teams, these games are always so super fucking high scoring. I mean, do you think Oregon State last year's 10, I believe they had 10 fucking wins last year, if I'm not mistaken. They had a great season last year. Or no, it wasn't 10. What was it, 9 or something like that? They had a ton of wins.
Yeah.
Do you think, I mean, with that defense, and defense kept them in a lot of those games, do you think that if they can do that again, like you actually think that they can maybe compete with a Washington or Oregon or a USC up there at the very, very top, even Utah, I'll throw them in there as well? I mean, just looking at the schedule, I'm seeing I agree with what you're saying. 4-0, absolutely.
Well, and again, 3, I might be wrong. No, I don't think I'm wrong with this. But 3 of those first 4 games are not Pac-12 games, so that really doesn't matter. They could literally go 0-3 to start the year off, and then they could just win out, and then they would be back in the Pac-12. But here's the way I look at it, Chris. I look at it from the standpoint of, offensively and defensively, you've got 3 really sort of less superior opponents, not by a whole lot in some of these teams, but by enough to where you should be able to gel as a team going into that Washington State game and kind of get on the same page. Again, do I think Utah, Colorado, well, I'm not going to say Colorado, but do I think Utah, Washington, and Oregon are going to be easy wins? No, I don't. I don't think that at all. I think in order for them to compete, they're definitely going to have to pull off at least 1 to 2 upsets against either Utah, Washington, or Oregon and win out, and they have to win out the rest of the schedule to absolutely have a shot at this. Look, I think it's a really hot take, and I know I kind of built that up. I think it's a hot take, but I think the reason why it's a top take, Daniel said it best, man, is they're getting better, but they're not upper echelon yet,
Agreed.
Right? I mean, the Pac-12 runs through USC, Oregon, Washington, and Utah, and I mean, those are the teams to beat if you want to get in. You got to at least beat a couple of those teams here if you've got any shot in hell at trying to compete for that Pac-12 championship at the end of the year.
No, I agree with you, and that's where I'm at, Christian. I guess what I was going to, end this off with Oregon State is like a lot of it to me this year. I dug pretty fucking deep into these guys, honestly, even though it's a hot take, but it's like their defense was number 1 last year in the Pac-12. And it kept them in a lot of fucking games. They won a lot of games, but they still didn't finish at the top, right? It was USC last year. It was Oregon. It's your prototypical Washington was fucking awesome last year. Like, I don't see their defense repeating. And I guess this is where maybe me and you different. We're going to find out. This is what I love about the world. We're going to find out here shortly, in a couple months, how good DJ really is. You know what I mean? I'm not near as high. I thought he was a part of the problem at Clemson. We'll have a debate about that some other day. I know you're big on him, but I don't think they can't go any worse than 105th on passing offense. I mean, he's going to sling the ball around. He's a big kid with a big fucking arm. Reminds me a lot of, I hate to say the word, Jamarcus Russell, like at LSU a long time ago. He could throw the ball around, sling it around. Christian, you're bringing up his stats. You look like you're a stat whore. You look like you're digging deep over there. I want to know what his stats were last year. Here we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, 2,500 yards, 22 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 64.8 QBR in the ACC.
Terrible. You're right. It wasn't terrible.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not trying to bag on the Pac-12. I'm just saying if you compare some of the defenses in the Pac-12 to some of the defenses in the ACC,
okay.
I think it's a little bit of a step down. So it's going to get easier in the competition there, in the scheduling.
I agree with that. I agree with that portion of it. It just felt like in big moments last year with Clemson with him, he threw a lot of like just terrible interceptions in times that he shouldn't have and or fumbled the ball. You know what I mean? I watched a lot of Clemson's games last year. And you're right. Maybe I might be wrong. I'll admit when I'm wrong, 100%. I guess we're going to find out with him this year at Oregon State. I do think he's going to have some godly numbers, but I also think that's inflation because it's the Pac-12 and not to hate on the Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, he also had 500 yards rushing and he had 7 touchdowns last. I mean, the guy put up almost 3,000 total yards and 29 touchdowns, right? So, I mean, again, like I said, he was not the worst thing that I've seen. Again, like a lot of people think, oh my God, they just look at it and they hear it and they're going to say, well, he was a trash can back there at quarterback. No, a trash can would literally be some of the Alabama quarterbacks. I mean,
that would be Jalen,
not split hair. Yeah,
Moreau. I agree. No, 100%. No, you're not wrong. I mean, I'm glad you pulled that up. That's what I wanted to look at. I didn't get enough time to sit there and click over to that, but I wanted to see what his stats were. No, his stats weren't bad. ACC numbers, he put up some, put up some really nice numbers. Again, the Oregon State's year is going to come down to him, I think. Limited turnovers. I think he's going to throw for fucking 30 touchdowns. I do. I really, truly do. Kick and run a little bit. Big question, like I started the show off with, is can their defense play like that again? They lost their 2 top corners. Those guys are studs, by the way. Like that was like probably 2 of the top 15 cornerbacks in the NFL draft. So like those guys are way up there. But like if push comes to shove in the Pac-12, you got to get a pass rush. You got to be able to fucking do something over there to stop some of these teams, because Washington is not going anywhere. Bo Nix in Oregon is not going anywhere. God, we know we got the Heisman Trophy winner back at USC. To compete for that Pac-12, man, that is a tough gauntlet right there. I know Daniel would agree. And he says it right there. How will he act at big moments, with the game on the line? That's the thing with him too. I saw him a couple times last year in bigger games. He just didn't step up to the plate personally, in my opinion, Christian. But you know what? I love your guys' opinions, Christian. I love him to death. I mean, we're going to find out, right? We're going to put our money where our mouth is, and we're going to see what he's about. But overall, to answer your question about the hot take, no, I don't see it happening this year. And Daniel said it best, again, to bring up Daniel again one more time here, but he said it best. They're getting better. They are. Good for Oregon State, man. Good for them competing over there, being a name that we're in, a topic that we're actually talking about, I think they're going to be fine. I think they're definitely not going to be a pushover. When you see them on the schedule, I don't think teams are going, oh, that's a fucking win. You know what I mean? Like they do with Nebraska over here in the Big Ten most years, as they should. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I think you said it all perfectly. 100% agree. What you said, and Daniel obviously right here. Based off what we've seen, probably not all that great. But again, you never know, right? I mean, you could make the same argument about Joe Burrow when he went from Ohio State to LSU. Again, just in this weird era of transfer football, you never know what someone's going to do.
You're right.
You just don't.